Hello, everyone. Welcome to In the Neighborhood with your hosts, Tim Johnson and Stacy Borho. Together, they are finding out what makes the heart of the Heartland beat. They sit down with people in your community that lead organizations, businesses, and government. You'll learn who they are and what they're involved in and why. They are the people in your neighborhood. It's In the Neighborhood with Stacy Borho and Tim Johnson.
Hi there, city folk. This is Tim Johnson and Stacy Borho.
Hey, Tim.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
161 shows today.
All right.
We've been making shows. That's for sure.
Edging closer to 200.
Yeah.
Before you know it.
Pretty soon. You know, there's something about. I've been thinking about this quite a bit. So there's something about the human spirit that says that if I invest in others, it's an investment in me.
Mm-hmm. Giver's gain.
And, you know, I was thinking about it on the way here today, and I'm like, you know, when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling depressed, because depression is about me, if I invest in others, a lot of that depression goes away.
That's true.
So, you know, when you're thinking about what you're doing and, you know, if you're in your house by yourself, sometimes you just need to get out of your head and get out of your house and go volunteer and go spend some time and help some people out.
That's right.
So,
and that's what we're about.
That's all.
Connecting people with their volunteering vision.
Been jumping out of airplanes lately?
No.
Okay.
Probably not again this year.
It's
getting a little cold for that.
Yeah. Well, that would be, yeah. You could still do it, right?
No.
We're on WPEO. Thanks, WPEO, for rebroadcasting our show. Appreciate that. We're also on Peoria TV, which is channel 17 on i3 broadband. Okay. And, of course, Facebook and YouTube. Go and check us out on YouTube and like us there. We always could use followers on that one. But another thing that we don't talk about too much is we're also on iTunes.
Oh, okay.
So you can pick up, I think, 161 shows on iTunes.
Wow.
All of the old shows, the new shows, back from Brian Spain all the way to today.
That's so cool. Did that take a lot to do that?
It's taken a little bit, but
you're our tech guy. I know nothing of this stuff.
You know, it's easier than putting something on TV. But,
okay.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Today we're talking with Molly Rice. Hi, Molly. How you doing? You're with Peoria North End Urban Garden. Easy for me to say. Peoria North End Urban Garden.
Yes.
What is North End Urban Garden?
Well, it's basically, in the very simplest form, vacant lots that surround my home. And back in 2015, my husband and I purchased a $10,000 home in Peoria's North Valley. For those that don't know, that's between downtown and Averyville in the valley. And our home's on the corner of Glendale and Voris. And we chose that neighborhood to move our family into because it was, first of all, very cheap. But second of all, it's my family's neighborhood. It's where my mom grew up. All of her siblings grew up. And in fact, our home is 5 houses down from a house that my grandmother lived in with her children at some point. That's so cool. Yeah, so that neighborhood is, I feel like it gets a bad rap sometimes because bad things happen there, but also I think a lot of people just don't know a lot about the neighborhood, or they just kind of drive through and they don't want to stop. So when we bought our house, it was just the lot that the house was on. We had almost no yard, and we thought, this is great. We don't have to mow very much. This will be fabulous. And then within about a year of living there, our closest neighbor on Glendale, their house was had 2 drive-by shootings in one night, one at the front of the house and one at the back. And that was pretty scary. It was then firebombed within 8 days. So that house was a total loss. No one was hurt, but that family decided to leave the neighborhood. I don't really know for sure why it happened or what went on before that, but anyway, we ended up, the owner of that house after it was torn down in November of 2016, he said, I will give you the lot. You can have the lot. And I said, well, I think you got to sell it to me, otherwise I have to pay more, higher tax, a gift tax or whatever. And so he said, okay, $1 here. So I bought a lot for $1.
Wow.
When you talk about city lots in our neighborhood, though, they are not buildable lots. They're usually about 27.5 feet wide, which you cannot build a house on.
Yeah, with
For
today's
current,
standards, yeah.
current fire codes.
Right.
But the lot is 176 feet long, so it's pretty big. I then approached the city because there was another same size lot between that lot and my home that had been vacant for decades. It did have a house on it one time. Most of the houses in our neighborhood, you could at one time walk between and touch both houses. That's how close they are. So the city started a program called the Side Lot Program, and it was in order, they have a lot of vacant lots that owners have abandoned or let the houses be torn down or revert back to the city. And if the city owns that lot, they're paying to mow that lot, maintain that lot. If you own property, and I don't know all the technical details and rules of this, but if you own property, and I think they look more favorably on it if you live on that property, and you are willing to take over the maintenance of that lot, they are willing to give that to you. So I asked about one lot, they gave me 2 lots. So I end up, my entire property now is kind of a C shape. There's a house in the middle of it that is not mine. And my youngest daughter, who is now 12, at the time she was 10, she said, can we do something nice here and peaceful? Because that fire and the shooting was very scary for her.
Sure.
And I said, yeah, what do you want to do? And she said, let's do a peace garden. And I said, okay, let me figure out what to do. I'm not a gardener. I don't know a lot about it. So we spent that winter right after we acquired that lot, figuring out what we could do. And the internet is a fabulous resource. So is the library. And we ended up growing our first season in 2017. We grew about 250 tomatoes of all different varieties. And about a handful of potatoes. That was an experiment. We didn't do very well at it right at first. And we did a whole lot of basil and flowers, and because we knew that without bees pollinating things, we would not have vegetables. So we grew a lot of flowers to attract those pollinators. And we ended up giving the produce away. And the kind of idea for the garden became, let's grow food for people and pollinators. And it's healthy food. And we're in a
Food desert.
Food desert.
Yeah.
Kroger just closed. We need to do this. And we found that as we went, a lot of neighborhood kids would come help out. And they would point at tomatoes on the plant and they'd say, what is that? And I'd say, well, it's a tomato. And they're like, but why is it on there? That's how they grow, And they're like, no, you go to the store to buy those. What is that? And so it was like, wow, there's a lot more education here that we need to do,
Right.
for kids to understand how that works. And so our education with the kids in the neighborhood isn't super organized. A lot of families in our neighborhood move frequently, so we may see a kid for a few weeks, we may see a kid every day all summer, but then we don't see them the next year. There are several exceptions to that. We have some real close neighbors that we see their kids all the time, and they're great kids, great parents. We have some really great neighbors down there. But we hope that we can keep, providing something that everybody in the neighborhood would like. Trying to get adult neighbors involved is a little more difficult. A lot of people work multiple jobs, work weird shifts, so that it's hard for them to get out there. And in my neighborhood, if you don't want trouble, you go inside and you close your door and you don't interact, so we're kind of trying to work on people that way. They also think, well, what's the catch? What are you selling? And we just want everybody to learn how to grow food, and if you can't learn how to grow food, take some fresh food, that's fine. And a lot of people in the neighborhood said, and my family too, said, you got to fence this off. People will be taking the they'll take your produce. And I'm like, well, that's kind of the point. That's what we want to happen. So we really don't worry about that. And I actually have to go knocking on doors to try to give away the produce when we have a lot of it. This summer, 2018, we had a house fire in our house. So we were not down at the garden as much because we were working on repairing the house and living elsewhere, and it's a big mess. We're about to move back in.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the condo, I'm not living in it, but we have a condo we've been flipping that.
Yeah, exactly.
Same thing.
So we didn't really have much fire damage. It was mostly water damage, but every time you do something, you find a little more. And so we're working on that, bringing everything up to code, and we'll get to move back in there pretty soon here. So next year, hopefully, will be a better season, and we'll be on site more.
So where is Averyville, for those that don't know?
Well, Averyville is from about Woodruff High School to McCluggage Bridge.
Okay.
But my neighborhood is, it has several names. We always called it the North End when I was growing up. That's what my mom called it. But I've heard near North Side, North Valley, and that's from about Woodruff all the way to downtown. So I went to Woodruff. I'm third generation graduate on both sides of my family, so it is kind of disappointing that my kids can't go to Woodruff in a regular capacity, but my older kids went to Manual and they loved it and they really enjoyed it.
I've sold homes in that area, and there's still a lot of older families that have been there a long time.
Yeah, quite a few. And we have a lot of renters, more renters than in a typical neighborhood, I think. But we have some really awesome renters that I'm like, please don't leave. You're you're great. So, and a lot of kids, whole lot of kids in our neighborhood. So
I bet.
it's always really fun.
I think that's so cool that the kids came out and were exploring, and that you're taking the opportunity to educate them, because it's just so simple.
Yeah,
It's so simple.
and it's not, it's not hard to do. I'm out there planting something, and they're like, "What can we do that? Can we help?" And we have piles of dirt and piles of wood chips, and those are fun to play on. So we just let kids have a good time. And so we've had several dirt days where we've gotten some grant funding or other funding to bring in healthy soil. Our soil in all of the North Valley and many other neighborhoods does have lead in it, which is dangerous. So we don't till. We do not till the ground. That will stir up the lead more. We bring in all new composted soil and just lay it on top. And we do raised beds. So our raised beds are not pretty. They're not the typical gardener raised beds. We use chunks of concrete that people have brought us. We use down tree trunks. We use, it looks kind of crazy, but it works. And it holds that dirt there, and it keeps the lead, out of the way. And we have 4 compost bins, loose compost bins that we do composting with too. So we use all the leaves all the leaves in the neighborhood. We've had neighbors bring us their leaves after they raked. We do some food waste. We try not to do too much food waste out there because of mice and rats and things like
Yeah.
that. But usually we just do the eggshells, banana peels, and coffee grounds, and that really helps our soil quite a bit. So we
That's
get a
so
better
cool.
better yield after that. But
So it's kind of like the true definition of a neighbor, right?
oh yeah,
Because
oh yeah,
you're bringing
Doors are
in these
open.
kids.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're able to be a good mentor for the kids and
Yeah.
and really
hopefully,
educate them.
yeah, hopefully.
Safe place.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a lot of kids who, their parents are at work and they're bored, especially in the summer. And so, I'm happy. I'm glad that they're in my garden rather than doing, something else. And I hope their parents are happy and okay with that. I don't often get to meet the parents, but, my youngest child is at Lincoln School here in the neighborhood. And so that, they know her, when they see her and they're like, oh yeah, that's Amy's house, that's Amy's garden, so they're a little more familiar with us than when we first moved in, which is kind of nice.
So if somebody's interested in doing a garden themselves, what kind of tips would you give them?
I would tell them to test their soil first to make sure they don't have any contaminants or anything, especially if you're in an older neighborhood. Bring in new soil as much as you can. It can get really expensive. So, I would say trade seeds with neighbors or friends or online, mail seeds to each other. That way you get a really good variety. And just keep in mind everything's an experiment. You're going to fail. You're going to have lots of failures. And you'll know next time, okay, that doesn't grow there. We'll try it a different way. So.
Are there other organizations helping you?
There are. Rotary had me speak, and they gave us a $500 grant to purchase some more soil to get the so we could do some more beds and have more healthy places to grow. I also originally got a pollination project grant, which is like an online micro grant. They gave us $1,000 to buy dirt and some supplies, and that was a huge, huge help.
Wow.
And then I've had lots of individuals come and bring us, old garden tools or, things they weren't using, which was really big help. The Peoria Women's Club brings me egg cartons to start seedlings in and seeds, and they, they're wonderful, and they are a wealth of information. Those ladies, some of them know how to garden very well, and they gave me a lot of good tips. And let's see, who else? I think that's about it. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. I'm sure I am, but yeah, it seems like everybody is really positive about it and really helpful and happy that we're there doing something,
Yeah, the city spends over $300,000 a year to just mow the lots.
Nuh-uh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And they can't even get them very frequently, so they don't always look really good. So,
right.
yeah. So it started, we just started mowing those lawns before we even owned them because we're already out there mowing anyway, and we knew that the city wouldn't be able to
Yeah,
cover
and they
them.
have programs where you can buy land even if you're not living there.
Oh, yeah.
For as low as $600. So
Yep.
You
You
can-
can just do whatever you
you
want
can
with
build
it. Try
and
to.
put a garden wherever,
Yeah.
as long
Yeah.
as you take care of it.
We do have. I forgot our. Bradley University sends us student volunteers, and
Oh,
they're
cool.
wonderful. They get in there and they build stuff for us, and they haul things, and they've been wonderful. Really, really nice to see them and introduce them to our neighborhood because it's kind of outside that Bradley bubble. And then Dream Center has also sent us quite a few volunteers too. They're wonderful.
Awesome. We have eaten up all of the time that we
Yeah,
have allotted. It's great.
We have
you
an
a
awesome
great-
community.
Yeah, great story.
In all areas.
Is there something, I don't know how to best put this, but you didn't necessarily get a calling to, do a garden, but it's just.
Yeah, I had a calling to move into that neighborhood.
Right.
That it felt like home to me. That's where I went to school. That's where my mom grew up. And I just I wanted to be back there again, and
Yeah.
I wanted my kids to be there, and it's.
So it's just take one step at a time.
Yeah.
And do
See what
you
happens.
need to do for
Yep.
the community.
Yep.
What's the best way for people to find more about you?
We have a Facebook page under Peoria North End Urban Garden, and that we do some volunteer days. We do, anytime we're in need of some donations or supplies or whatever, we'll put it there. I also frequently put out calls on that for neighbors in need, if we've got kids who need a pair of shoes or, something like
great.
that. Yeah.
So we're here with Molly Rice with North End Urban Garden. And yeah, please take your time to go and check their Facebook page out and do something. Invest in others, and you'll be investing in yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
PeoriaLife.com